The fluorescent lights of the classroom hummed, a sound that usually signaled the end of a long day. But for me, Rui and Samir, it was the beginning of something new. We were the last ones left, remnants of Mr. Harrison's advanced English class. He'd given us one final, peculiar assignment before he left for the summer. Forget grammar, forget vocabulary, he'd said, his eyes twinkling. Just speak. Speak with feeling. Your final task is to record yourselves having a real, emotional conversation in English. No script, just be. So there we were, sitting on top of the desks, the scent of whiteboard markers and old books filling the air. Samir had his phone propped up on a stack of textbooks, its small lens staring at us. We'd been silent for what felt like an eternity, the weight of the word emotional hanging between us. We'd spent a year conjugating verbs and memorizing idioms, but sharing feelings. That wasn't in any textbook. So, Samir started, his voice a little shaky. "What do we talk about?" I shrugged, tracing a pattern on the dusty desk with my finger. "I don't know. This feels weird, more nerve-wracking than the final exam." He chuckled, a soft sound that echoed slightly in the empty room. "Tell me about it. I can write a 5-page essay on Shakespeare, but ask me how I feel, and my brain just shuts down." We fell silent again. The setting sun cast long golden shadows across the floor, painting the room in a warm, nostalgic glow. It felt like a scene from a movie, and we were the awkward lead actors who'd forgotten their lines. I looked at Smear. He was staring at his hands, his brow furrowed in concentration. For the past year, he had been my biggest competitor and my quietest supporter. We'd spent countless hours in the library, challenging each other with difficult words and complex sentence structures. We pushed each other, celebrated small victories, and groaned over tough assignments. But we never really talked. Not like this. "You know," I began, my voice barely a whisper. "When I first came to this country, I couldn't even order a coffee properly. I practiced in front of the mirror every morning. Can I have one large coffee, please?" I remember my hands would shake when I handed the money to the barista, terrified they'd ask me a question I didn't understand. Samir looked up, his expression softening. "Really, you always seemed so confident in class. Your pronunciation is perfect. It's an illusion," I laughed, a small, breathy sound. Inside, I was always translating it, thinking in my native language, then building the sentence in English, then worrying if it sounded natural. It was exhausting. Every conversation felt like a performance. He nodded slowly, understanding dawning in his eyes. "I get that. For me, it was the slang. The jokes. Everyone would be laughing, and I'd be a few seconds behind, still processing the punchline. I felt so outside, like I was watching a movie of everyone else's life, and I was just reading the subtitles. His words hit me hard. That was it. That was the feeling. The constant nagging sense of being an outsider, separated by a thin wall of language. I spent so much time trying to be perfect, I continued, feeling a knot in my chest loosen. Perfect accent, perfect grammar. I was so afraid of making a mistake, of someone laughing at me, or thinking I was stupid. I built this armor, but it was so heavy. The silence that followed was different this time. It was comfortable, filled with unspoken understanding. We weren't just two students anymore. We were two people who had walked the same lonely path. Remember that presentation we had to give on our favorite book? Samir asked, a small smile playing on his lips. I chose a book from my home country. I practiced for weeks. I knew every word, every transition. But when I stood up there, I saw all the faces looking at me, and I just froze. The words wouldn't come out. I just stood there, in complete silence. I remembered the tense quiet, the way Mr. Harrison had gently prompted him. I had felt a pang of sympathy for him then, a connection I hadn't understood. I remember I said softly, "You eventually started and you were brilliant. It was because you smiled at me," he said, his voice low. He looked directly at me, and for the first time I felt like he was truly seeing me, Rui, not just the top student. It was just a small smile, but it felt like permission. Permission to be imperfect, to just try. After that, the words just flowed. My heart did a strange little flip. I hadn't realized my small gesture had meant so much. I had just been thinking, I've been there. You can do this. A comfortable silence settled between us again. The last rays of sunlight were fading, and the classroom was bathed in a gentle purple twilight. The phone was still recording, but I'd forgotten all about it. This didn't feel like an assignment anymore. It felt real. I took a deep breath, the air filling my lungs, feeling crisp and clean. I feel brave today. The words came out before I could even think about them. They were simple, but they held the weight of 1,000 struggles, 1,000 small victories. Brave for speaking up in class that first time. Brave for asking a stranger for directions. Brave for making a friend. Brave for sitting here, now sharing a part of myself I had kept hidden for so long. Samir's eyes were shining. He didn't look at the phone. He just looked at me. A slow, genuine smile spread across his face, reaching his eyes. It was a smile of pure, unadulterated admiration. He reached out, his fingers gently brushing against mine on the surface of the desk. The contact sent a jolt of warmth through me, a current of electricity that had nothing to do with grammar and everything to do with connection. "I am proud of us," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Us. The word hung in the air, a beautiful, perfect note. It wasn't just about passing a class or learning a language anymore. It was about the journey, our journey. We had started as strangers in a foreign land, armed with dictionaries and a desperate hope to be understood. We had battled our fears, our insecurities, and our loneliness. And in this empty classroom, under the watchful eye of a tiny camera lens, we had finally found what we were looking for. Not just the right words, but the courage to speak them from the heart. In that quiet moment, with our hands almost touching and our shared stories echoing in the stillness, I knew this wasn't just the end of an English class. It was the beginning of a whole new chapter, and for the first time, I wasn't afraid to turn the page. Thank you so much for watching. This story is for everyone who has ever felt lost in a new language or a new place. Remember to be kind to yourself. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe for more stories. See you next time.